call the meeting to order. We'll get started with a roll call. McKee here, Lanterman. Here. Friedrich.
Here.
Varenkamp.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Alrighty, and then we will kick it off with National Public Works Week Department Overview Presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Council, for allowing us to come in here for this 1 hour work session to just highlight and showcase the Public Works Department in celebration of National Public Works Week, which is next week. So we'll be rolling out some social media stuff, and we have an hour presentation tonight. We have 51 slides. That's a lot of data. We probably had 200 slides, so we had a lot to kind of highlight and dial it back. So it's really intended to be kind of a listening session. Historically, when I first started the city, we'd have work sessions with individual departments as we were growing, and that conversation, having a conversation about what was going on, the challenges, just kind of a connection with the council, and just due to the growth, the fast-pacedness nature of all the business we're doing, we kind of lost sight of that. So it was a department goal for myself to try to kind of reinvigorate that, particularly for public works. It applies to everyone, but we don't interface with the council as frequently as some of the other departments do or proximity. So again, very much appreciate that. We'll try to go fast, and a listening session, you might know most of the information, but if we can spur a thought, a topic, a concept, a question, or anything new, we can certainly follow up with more specific information. But just that's kind of the perspective we're approaching today. Again, just simply to highlight the depth and breadth of everything we do between engineering, operations, and utilities. And operations, we're quantifying as streets and parks primarily, because our urban stormwater goes with utilities, and rural stormwater goes with operations and power structure currently. And then just want to talk about challenges, into the growth areas, and just an overall effort to help council make better informed decisions throughout the year. Next slide, please. Why does public works matter? We deliver daily essential services to the community. It could be drinking water supply, sewage disposal and treatment. We have a mandate to protect public health and safety. We support economic development and housing growth. And one example is access to transportation, corridors of commerce, making sure those are working and efficient and cost effective. Quality of life, recreation activities, public spaces that are all part of the community. And then we do have a role in various roles in emergency response that we'll touch on tonight. It's kind of a forgotten component to our world that's not as often highlighted, but still critically important to its successes. Next slide, please. This is an interesting graphic that really is intended to say, from a public works perspective, it applies to almost everything, but if we take like a new development, for example, engineering is involved heavy early on. Utilities is involved heavy early on, strategic planning in terms of TLAC fees. So all the departments interface almost immediately with the development. When new homes come on, we start providing them sewer and water, utility billing services. That's our first point of connection with the residents. Operations takes over in terms of snow plowing, for example, when the wear course is down, which is roughly about 80–90% on our way to acceptance of the development. And then engineering circles back with punch lists and any HOA issues. And then obviously when we accept everything, we take on the larger maintenance responsibilities. And then throughout the life of that road or that neighborhood or that infrastructure piece of pipe, we're responsible to maintain it in perpetuity, to work on replacement of the streets and any reconstruct projects. So it just becomes a circular pattern, and it really never leaves the public works ground. So a high level of interface with residents and other departments in the city in addition to ourselves. Next slide. Some growth challenges that we face. So sewer and water. First home in sewer and water was 2012. Our population, depending on what you're looking at, was roughly 5,500, and today we're roughly 9,400. So you're looking back, 14-ish years, but a 70% increase. That's projected to continue. Another unique feature to us is that we have a large geographic area. We're similar to a footprint of Maple Grove, Brooklyn Park, and it's an expansive area for a small team. And then as residential growth increases, and I hear about it later, customer service increases significantly. service delivery staffing, one of the biggest challenges that I guess I want to highlight is just when to hit the timing of the staffing, right? So we think we have a new service that's onboarding, we try to multitask where, kind of like the dual roles, when do we split out and when is it enough time to actually form? They have like a specific job description for one task. That's super challenging in a growing environment with new data. I like to say 3 months in Corcoran is like 3 years in another municipality, and I stand by that statement. It's very fluid and dynamic environment. So with our budget cycle and considerations, that's one of the biggest challenges I personally have in trying to hit the sweet spot on a lot of those decisions that actually have a huge impact, both internally and externally. And this is just a list of our current public works staff, just generally put in different buckets. Next slide, please. So this is that same information then compared with our comparable cities. So the intention of this slide is just to show us we did the comp and class study a year and a half ago. Those are the same comparable cities that were used in that, so we try to carry that forward. And this is just really to reflect that where do we sit with those comparable cities. They range from, they're different types of cities, but they're the comparable cities. So we're kind of in what I would say the Corcoran way sweet spot, where we're kind of just under the median on a lot of stuff. That's how we've always operated. It's the Corcoran way, but it does differentiate what we ask of our staff in terms of capacity, ownership, and so it's just important to note. I think the biggest difference, you see, those are the ranges. Something happened. I don't think this translated correctly, but I guess I'll call your attention to the far right columns. I apologize. The far right columns in total. So the first line was supposed to be the comparable cities. So the one that starts with 9. I apologize, I got cut off where the total is 20. That's the median of the comparable cities. The middle column is the range of the comparable cities. So total public works and engineering employees is 20 was the median, and the range actually between the cities was 8 to 38. The biggest difference in that 8 to 38 is how they classify seasonal employees, so it's a little bit deceptive. That 38 is like Rogers has a dozen seasonal employees, so it really starts to stretch it out. The bottom on that range is Bowden-Dina, the top on that range is Rogers in terms of staffing. And then we're at 17, so we're, again, under the median. Really rely on our team and their institutional knowledge and their abilities. So when you talk retention, institutional knowledge matters a lot. You can't really do that without institutional knowledge, and you can't do that without absorbing strategic hires from other communities. For instance, some of the stuff we're able to accomplish so far with our utility program, we divided that out recently. Next slide. Another thing we want to emphasize, public works are first responders. In 2003, President George W. Bush had the directive. FEMA's National Incident Management System classifies us under that in some ways. During the COVID process, there was some stuff that we passed that just kind of acknowledged that in terms of some of the classifications that were happening out in the industry. So, next slide. Some of the things that our team does in terms of what we view as first responding, we provide logistical support for critical incidents, primarily helping the police and fire departments. That could be providing barriers, that could be providing fuel if an incident goes on longer, so a lot of that logistical support system. It seems simple, but we clear roads if there's a storm event to open up the roads to be able to help people. That's very important if someone's having a heart attack or something, and it's often overlooked in terms of priority. We can salt roads if there's a driveway that they need to get down and salt or scrape. We're on call for that. We hopefully don't have to do anything of the scale that we saw in downtown Minneapolis, but if there ever was a serious incident, a lot of times public works employees put up the perimeters to help stabilize situations, but they're on the front lines interacting with some environments that aren't optimal for anyone. So we are really proud to partner with our public works team here in Corcoran to help as needed in those situations, and we're proud of that capability. Next slide. Okay, so now I forgot to mention we do have each of our superintendents for each of the experience some of this process and get to know you guys. So Pat Meister, who represents our operations team, will.
He looks familiar.
Oh,
But he looks familiar. We've seen him
you wanna
before.
come on up, Pat?
I get to go up, hopefully. So, the first slide up here is some of our job essentials that we do daily, weekly, whatever it may be. And getting more and more vehicle maintenance, as you can see in the city vehicles, as the fleet keeps growing and parks are changing, more parks are being done and maintenance of that type of stuff too. So, you can go to the next one. Culvert replacements. This has been really challenging the last couple of years. We've got a ton of culverts that have failed. We're doing a lot of it in-house. It goes well. We just did a big one on Kelp Road last week that collapsed, and I should say, and one also on Strailer. We try to do it as efficiently as we possibly can. We try to keep, one of the questions may ever come up, why we have so many culverts. It's stockpile out there right now, just for this reason. We don't know what's gonna happen when it happens. We can do it on the weekend if we have to, so pretty much where we're at with that.
And I just want to emphasize that there is real savings to the taxpayer, that second bullet, if you want to touch on that.
And when we do that, we also start with, for the Blacktop Road, we'll cut them open, we patch them, put everything back in ourselves, so we do the whole process.
And that saves time as well. I would assume if you had to go outside for that, it would probably add a few weeks
It'll
more.
probably take weeks more, and scheduling to get them to do the small project is tough. They just don't wanna come in and do small projects. And we ran into that a few years ago. We've been with our overlay program. We were doing small stretches. They didn't like it, so we actually went to the whole neighborhood, and the bids actually got better, so. Okay, next one. This one gets, we're really unique from other cities. With the gravel application, grading, putting on gravel, which we've done this week up, we just finished this afternoon, about 1 o'clock, putting the gravel on the roads for the summer. In 2 weeks, we hope to put dust control on. It's scheduled to go. And then the ditch clearing, sweeping, we now take that, we took it out in the spring, sweeping the streets, so that's all gonna be done in the spring of the year, right out of the hole. With, when I guess, both ways, the cul-de-sacs on the gravel roads, we have swept back because of so much gravel got pushed back on them. We sweep big ditches out on the cul-de-sacs only where it's excessive. I mean, we're talking a foot of gravel out there, we wanna get it back in and save it, so it's not flooding the ditches up. The asphalt roads, pretty much parallel at the same time, we tried to crack seal when, at the same time we wanted to grade the road, so we gotta spread the crew thin and do what we think is most necessary at the time to be efficient. Same with the street sweeping, we wanna get on top of that as possibly, as soon as we can, so we don't have all the stuff washing into the storm sewers to keep them clean. Lauren handles the contracting of the projects, you know, the reclamite and the asphalt patching, that type of stuff, which is a huge deal for us to take it off our plate. Wintertime, the gravel roads really create a beast, and I'm sure you all know it. Our population has expected our gravel roads to be as well as the asphalt roads. That's changed a lot. In my 36 years here, before they were happy if they were plowed and had 2 inches of snow on them. They no longer like that. They holler, they're in a ditch. I mean, it's no different than any place I'm sure you hear, which has made it tough. I mean, just touching base on that real quickly. On that one ice storm we had, we put 500 ton of gravel on the roads, on the gravel roads, just in that one ice event, plus scraping them with the graders, just to get them back passable. So that's a tough one. The paved roads, they're pretty much easier to take care of in the wintertime. It's slick and, you know, they're up and open and moving along. So, and you can probably plow them twice as fast as you can that gravel ones because you don't have to worry about not being froze. So, I touch base on that. I don't know if you.
No, I think some of the points here that I would emphasize are we might be called out for us, like in other cities that don't have gravel roads or significant gravel roads. Again, our gravel roads that are gravel are collector roads, so a lot of our main corridors are gravel roads. That's your kind of the road that gets your traffic in and out, and your higher speed roads. So if we have one of those flash freezes or one of those events where they ice over, it's extremely problematic. And so we might get called out on a sunny day, either in the spring or fall when it's like a flash freeze event, and other cities aren't even worried about that. The other issues, there's a lot of skill difference between plowing, to do it like effectively where you're not, you know, there's a lot of skill with plowing a gravel road versus a paved road that maybe not inherent to somebody that's not a plow operator. So just, there's a huge difference between the two, so it's almost like a whole nother set of winter maintenance and summer maintenance obligations. So instead of 2, we basically have 4 programs we have to run related to street maintenance.
I will say the traffic on the gravel roads, graveling this year is unbelievable. We had cars coming at us 4 wide. They will take on the dump trucks head on, they don't care. We were on Sundance Road in 30 the other night, the cars were literally passing as the semis were turning in there, taking them, semis had to pull over the shoulder of the road. And then to go a step farther, we got the kids out of the neighborhood out there doing wheelies on their mini bikes out on County Road 30, and the one young fella had a baby on her. It couldn't have been no bigger than this. He's carrying on his motorcycle as we're trying to put gravel on the road. You're trying to do this. It's very stressful for us being out there to see this. I mean, I was running the grader, Brandon was directing traffic, running the trucks. To see that, to think of what's going to happen if that kid gets run over or we hit him, it's not a good deal. It's people are out of control. It doesn't matter. We're on Shuddy Road to Kelk. I mean, the traffic is unbelievable. And that stretch out by Dean's on Bechtel, I mean, that it's 50 miles an hour. They don't care. We had one gal actually go up on top of the pile yesterday on Trailhaven. There was numerous vehicles up there. We had guys on top of the hill telling them to slow down. She drove right over the window and hung the car up. All 4 wheels were off the ground.
I was hoping you'd skip Bechtel, just leave it the way it was. Somebody staff wanted to know where to send the bill to for suspension maintenance. I said, you're on your own. You don't even belong out here. They were from St. Michael, they were upset, and I just said, I don't mind it. I just slow down. It's crazy.
Yes, it is. It's nuts. So let's go to the next one. So here's our mileage of road stacking up against a lot of our other neighboring cities. And this is one of the big things is you take these Dayton, Minnetrista, and Medina, them miles are small housing projects. In Medina, the only main road they have left is Willow Drive between 55 and Hamel Road.
And that might be getting paved at some point, I think.
What's that?
I think that might be getting paved at some point coming up. Isn't there a project around there?
Yeah, Steve's not too gung-ho about doing it. He's the same way. You don't get too excited about it.
Yeah.
It's just, but that's what I'm saying. Our roads, the number of cars that are going across them, and it's funny because Lauren and I just had this conversation. The state kicked back our counts again on a couple of roads, and we now we've got these fancy traffic counters that are all digitalized and stuff. They don't believe us. The counts go up that much every year that they don't believe us. The counts are getting that high. I should say believe us. They just don't think it accurate. So
Tell them to come out and sit and watch it for a day.
exactly. So that's all I have on this one.
Sorry, on that one.
Oh, go ahead.
Of the 32 miles, how much of that is collector level volume?
I'm going to say 20.
I would say that, no, we can break that down and distribute that to you folks, if that's information you like. That's part of the conversation today, is if any of this stuff spurs questions, we'd be happy to follow up with specific information.
It'd be nice to know.
We will follow up with that breakdown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And these are the operation challenges we have. I mean, we're well diversified on our roles. The shop on the west side of the city is not the best, but it is what it is. It's better than what we had. It creates some running around by no means, and you're fighting traffic going back and coming out in the morning. That's the sad part about it. It's just the safety. The guys on the roads out there working right now, it's, like I said, it's dangerous, and they don't slow down, they don't respect you, it doesn't matter what you have out there. protection. You can have road closed signs, and the next thing you know, you got a car honking at you that's gone through 2 sets of barricades already when you're right there, and you're going around and look like, where did you come from? I need to get through. Well, you can't get through. I mean, there's a hole. We can't let you go through. So that, and then the expanding fleet and service, as we get bigger, we're doing, I don't know if you all know that or not, we're doing a lot of the maintenance, the minor stuff, or so-called minor stuff on the squad cars, that type of stuff, oil changes, brakes. We do all, anything major goes out, the same as our equipment, we send it back out if it's major. The smaller stuff we handle in the house. And it's overall the residential versus the urban mix, and the equipment and the training and what it takes to do it. Yeah, we have equipment, but it's also, we need it because we have this blacktop road, and we also have this gravel road we have to take care of. And that's where we're at. And that's one thing, just touching on that. When I started here in 1990, in 7 years, they were going to have all the roads paved. They had a plan to do it. And there's been 2 paved since I've been here. So we're a little behind on that from what our goal was. So. And then,
Sorry to interrupt. On the safety question, would it be helpful to try to involve maybe the CSO officer or some of the reserve squad when you have your more intense repairs where you need a little bit more protection?
we currently do that. The police department has been great. Matt's known that when the Oakdale Drive, we were doing that, we had to come out there because it got to be a point where you couldn't handle it no more. I mean, there were people getting very belligerent, ugly, and we did not set the road closure up. We hired a company in to do it, which Morning Lights does all of them around the state. They set it all up for us, and they just don't like getting off the route. So yes, we work together neck and neck all the time on these situations where we know we have a problem, and they jump on it. They're out there to help us. So as you can see here with our operations, what they actually consist of a crew, when we go out and do something, you can see what it takes to do the jobs and what our staff is, so it leaves us very limited time to do another task that day if we're on that project. So.
I'll just jump in.
And I'm actually going to tell you, we actually have one more guy, because we run a squeegee on the crack sealer too. We're off by one guy that's caught that now. We run a squeegee across it now. It helps cut that ribbon down on the road so you don't get that thump thump. We started that this year and it seemed to work. We'll find out what the outcome is next spring after we plow them once, where how it works. So.
I need a quick comment. Apologies to interject. A quick comment that I want to add on this slide is we are lucky because we have the capacity to self-perform, but it's also a detriment because we can't be as reactive to other department needs or other resident needs. So as it gets back to the whole when's the time and place to hire, right? How do we scale up to match the service demand? That's just like an inherent struggle that we have, and sometimes we get it and sometimes we don't. But that's kind of the message of this point is that we like the benefits and the cost savings of self-performing, but then it has other limitations that go along with it, and we have to balance those and understand those. Try to communicate those, but it is a real challenge in a growing community that used to do everything all in-house in one team. As we specialize over time, what's the right time and place? How do we structure that? It's a big challenge for us as we go forward.
I would imagine you'll probably get better quality because you're responsible for everything versus like if you were contracting crack sealing, they probably wouldn't want to worry about squeegeeing the crack because they're not going to be the ones plowing it.
I think we do. We got an awesome crew between on the whole city, all of us employees here. Everybody takes very, very much to heart the work we do to represent ourselves. We do it no different. We're doing it in our own homes, I guess, and that we look at it that way. We want to do it as cost effective as we can, and as best we can do it, and as cheap as we possibly can. And that's the mentality we all have.
Yeah, and there's long-term savings to that because if a road doesn't have cracks in it, you don't damage it, it doesn't get the freeze-thaw cycles, and it lasts another 10 years. Now you're saving yourself or pushing out $2 million a mile in costs.
Yep, and like I said, that's one thing throughout my years I've had. I got vendors, they all know me because I shop them hard and I'm not afraid to push them a little bit, so. So here's, going back to this, the working conditions and that type of stuff. The biggest problem that we have that ourselves with the CDLs is that follows you home. I mean, what happens here if you're out there snow plowing and somebody rear ends you, that follows your accident record. And that's a bad deal, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you could be at no way at fault, and that comes back on your record when you did, something comes up down the road. I know personally, I was grading Kane Road, and Brandon was out there actually grading with me. The garbage truck ran right in the back of me. I was grading the road at 4 miles an hour, and the thing came up and just plowed into me. It threw me right out of the seat. I said, what in the world happened? And I turned around looking, the garbage truck is back there. Well, that shows up on my driving record. It was an accident. And that's one of the hard things, you know, when people, why these CDLs can be good or bad, but, you know, that can affect your own insurance rates at home or whatever it may be. And with the snow plowing the way it is, with traffic, it's getting crazy. And the health card, we hold health cards, DOT health cards. By law, that government employees do not need them. We go above and beyond because of, if we have an employee with a problem that's not noted, high blood pressure, diabetes, whatever is not being treated, I feel confident if something would ever happen where a fatality happened, our drivers are good. We're gonna be checking out fine. We check the boxes above and beyond to keep it safe for the public. So.
Great, thank you.
And then the next one is expanding fleet and services. As we continue to grow, the building is getting tight. It's on the west side of the city, everything is on the east pretty much doing it. And it's all money, we get it. I mean, that's one thing we really stressed when we built it. We wanted to go bigger just for this reason, so we weren't talking about this today, but the monies weren't there to do it at that time. And we're lucky we added, I mean, this sort of, I don't know how many people know this, but we added on 2 extra sections of that building out there when we built it through push, shove, whatever it may be. And the lean-to got done when actually, thank you to you guys, when we finished it off and closed it in. That's been a big saver already. Just keeping birds and equipment cleaner out of there, it's remarkable. And the starlings aren't happy, they're pounding on the door of the day out there, but that's okay. But it's just, with it going this way, it's just hard to plan ahead for 5 years to see what you're gonna need for equipment. How many new roads are we gonna have? What piece of equipment do you need to do it, and all that type of stuff. And that's, sometimes I feel like we come to you guys and say, well, we need this now. And I think, I don't know if you ever take it in, like, why do you need this now? We didn't know about it 2 years ago. We did know about it then. You know, it's like trail maintenance. It's, and I'm talking along mowing alongside the trail. The park maintenance, what it's gonna take, sweeping the streets, catch basins, that type of stuff, everything. It's gonna change what we're doing with it because it's new to us. So that's the biggest areas we struggle with, I guess. And then you have the mix of the country and you have the mix of the urban. And it's, some people don't feel like we forget about them. We were on the cul-de-sac yesterday. You guys forget about us out here at the new building. I said, no, we haven't forgotten about you. We'll never forget about you out here. We will not let it happen. But there again, you know, we have optimized equipment for each piece. For some for the blacktop, we gotta have some for the gravel. And that's creates the storage you would have when we're unique. I mean, we're huge in gravel and we're huge in blacktop. And until that changes, which it probably never will, it's going to be a struggle for the equipment you got to keep. And yeah, some of it sits because the other stuff is getting used and vice versa. So, but that's sort of pretty much with that.
I have a quick question. I know in the past we've done, I know Dayton's been very happy with it. We've done like a lot of equipment sharing, and if we need something from them that they have, or they need something from us, we're kind of just working to, you know, help each other out. Do we still do that?
Yes, we have the best neighboring cities we can ask for.
Awesome.
For working together. And I'm talking from Plymouth, Maple Grove, Grove, Wayzata, St. Michael, we work a lot with St. Michael back and
Awesome.
forth now, and then, I don't know if you knew that or not, they poured that back slab for us in the lean-to, they poured all that with us.
Okay,
So,
great.
they
Glad to
came
hear
out
it.
with that, and actually Buffalo wants to come down and help us do some stuff, they want some shoulder, and they wanna come down and help us do our shoulder, and, so, yes, we're networking out there huge, and it's been a great success. I mean, you can call anybody, and that's, when you ask that, not to take up too much time, but when we had that storm go through Wayzata, we went down there, Brandon and I, and the other guys, a couple of them aren't here anymore, we went down there, they sent us out, the tornado went through, and they sent us out there to go pick up trees, and I think Matt might have been here or not, but anyways, so we go up the first street, there's trees this big around, and I looked at Brandon and I said, this is crazy. I said, don't they have equipment? And so finally we go back at lunch, and I pulled the supervisor out the side, I said, do you not have equipment? No, we don't have none of that. I said, well, we have a grapple for our loader. You do? I said, yeah, we got a grapple for our loader, we got a grapple for our skid loader. We know nothing when you wanted. I called the city of Rogers up, they brought it down to us. St. Michael brought their stuff down there. He says, man, you guys out here on the west side work way better than us cities on this side do. He said, we wouldn't have that down here. And that came from their supervisors. I said, this is the way it is. I said, how many more guys do you want? I mean, you need more cities to come down here? I can call them. So that's what I'm saying. When you say that, no, it's a one phone call away, and you have it, and it's awesome.
Glad to hear it.
It's no different than snowball field. We'll give a truck up
Right,
to keep them going if they're in an emergency, and they do vice versa, so.
awesome.
No, it's
Great.
that, I can't praise our neighboring cities enough for that. It's been tremendous.
Glad to hear it.
And when you talk to their fellow council people, you can say thank you to them too, because
Will do.
it's all of us, and you guys too, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving us the opportunity to kind of speak to the different divisions of Public Works. I'm here to speak a little bit about engineering and some of the things that we do and some of the importance that engineering has in terms of cross divisions within Public Works. So a couple of things that I'm going to talk about are the capital improvement and street infrastructure planning, the existing plan that we have, as well as preparing for a future plan. Responsiveness to residents and HOA questions. So as we accept developments, there are a lot of questions from residents. So having the availability to kind of answer those questions, if they're engineering related, is super helpful. And then alignment with city priorities, as well as some permit compliance. Next slide, please. So as we look to the future and the amount of roads that we're accumulating, every new mile of road turns into a future mill and overlay, turns into future maintenance, turns into future utility responsibilities that might be underneath those roadways. So just trying to think about that as we plan for our future CIP and infrastructure planning. Next slide, please. So we've kind of calculated over the last 5 years, we're accumulating approximately 2.5 miles, or 2.25 miles of new roadway each year. The breakdown here, the municipal state aid streets, we do get state funding for those, but they're still owned and maintained by the city. And then our local streets show kind of the breakdown here of the paved versus the gravel roads. Next slide, please. As part of engineering, we also annually review and go through our city standard detail plates. These are a primary tool to provide to the different developments to set standards and expectations so that we have consistency across developments, so that we get the infrastructure quality that we're looking for. It does help because a lot of developments have different engineering firms that they work with, and so having a consistency across these developments will help us in the long run in terms of maintenance tasks and kind of the quality that we're getting. Next slide, please. When it comes to permit compliance, engineering kind of oversees and makes sure that we are following certain permits. The ones that I'm going to highlight here are the municipal separate storm sewer system that has to do with stormwater runoff. So whether that's urban or rural runoff, we are mandated by the EPA and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to comply with this permit. Next So this kind of covers all different divisions within Public Works. As Kevin mentioned earlier, operations is managing the rural ditches, where utilities is currently managing the urban stormwater. So that would be catch basins, any sort of structures within stormwater development. And then engineering, I kind of manage the stormwater pollution prevention program, as well as making sure we're following those best management practices that are outlined in the permit. That involves education and outreach, as well as public participation for stormwater. We also train staff that are out in the field for stormwater compliance, so good housekeeping practices, as well as detection of illicit discharges and where to report those illicit discharges. Next slide, please. We also make sure that we're complying with the Wetland Conservation Act. We have a lot of wetlands here in Corcoran. So we administer that as the local government agency, but this would be something that we currently work with a specialist, like a contract or a consultant specialist, as developments come in to review the specifics for that. Next slide, please. So some of the challenges that engineering is facing is GIS and asset management. A GIS system and asset management system will help us identify data gaps, whether that's street condition, whether that's utilities, whether that's lighting, even building maintenance. That could all be kind of housed underneath an asset management system. And then access to project documents. So when our teams are out in the field and they need to pull up record plans, these can be kind of housed right in the asset management system, so they're easily accessible and easy to pull up out in the field. And then just budget constraints. So limited support to implement a program like this, or limited ability to implement a program like this at this time. And then as we look to CIP planning, kind of incorporating that into an asset management program. Next slide, please. So our current street CIP is the free overlay program. And this free overlay program is expected to be completed in the next 3 to 4 years, depending on budget commitments. And so as we complete this program, looking to our next program, our next CIP program. Next slide, please. So this slide kind of talks about what that might look like. We would need to do an assessment of our existing streets that would be both gravel and paved roads. There are softwares out there or platforms out there that can help us with that. So they're AI kind of tailored. Their consultants have the ability to help us with that, but the cost of that may be significantly higher than if we were to go with like a third-party platform. One I've highlighted here is Biolytics. I have some experience with it from my previous role in another city, but there are others out there, and we would have to evaluate which one would be best for the city. And then as we increase acceptance of development, you'll also have an increase in stormwater infrastructure, which will require financial investment. So that kind of goes into a discussion about stormwater area fees and rates. Next slide, please. Now I will hand it over to Joe for utilities.
21 minutes. What's that? 21 minutes. All right. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Take the time to explain the vital role that utilities plays in providing services to the city of Corcoran. A few things, and I'm going to tie in with some of my colleagues and what they mentioned to try to give a complete wrap up of what was said before. So I'll kind of tie in with what they said and make a full circle with it. But as far as utilities goes, one of the main things, as you probably would know, is our primary concern is to provide safe drinking water, but also provide wastewater management, stormwater flood prevention, and do that with fiscal responsibility and support development, and also
also provide emergency response when called upon. Next slide, please. As far as utilities goes, usually no news is good news. If you're not hearing about us, it means we're doing our job exactly how we should be. We take pride in our work, and we do that in being the stewards in our industry. You know, you've heard tonight numerous times on maintenance and maintenance and maintenance, and it's not gonna stop because there's a lot of maintenance that goes along with utilities. And every pipe and every hydrant and everything that goes in the ground creates maintenance. So we do that with providing good water quality, and that's maintenance in a different form, but that's sampling and data and analysis and record keeping and all these boring things that I'll say about that, but it's planned preventative maintenance. It's things you wouldn't think about so that it's not a problem when you don't want it to be. So we take pride in being proactive rather than reactive. And what that will do is that creates something a little bit more on your own terms. You're not reacting and being forced into a situation, but rather plan for it and do it when it's, you know, better weather, cheaper, more efficient, stuff like that, instead of reacting to it. So, one thing I will point out is that maintenance doesn't go away, and if you don't do it, it's just gonna be more costly down the road, and it just increases, so.
Are there standards, I mean, we talked about detailed plates in the last section. Thinking about that long-term maintenance impact, are there any changes that you would suggest we make as we're developing to try to reduce the amount of long-term maintenance we would expect to need to do?
We have been, since I started, we've been through two rounds of edits, making sure that, you know, what seems to be good at first might not be the long-term goal, and experience will determine that. One thing off the top of my head I can tell you is, like, we have extension rods for gate valves. As time goes on, they get filled with dirt, they freeze, you can't operate. They simply just cannot be used. So it's a good theory, but when you evolve and you grow from that, it's just knowing that this is going to be a problem down the road if you can't get on and use the valves that are designed. So we're always being fluid, we're always adapting, trying to make it as work for everybody as much as possible. You know, and forecasting what you're going to have for a future problem. What happened once, likely will happen again. So if you have something now, it's probably going to be just an indication of what's happening in the future.
It's like the materials and wall thicknesses of water mains or sewer constructions, things like that. Are we where we should be today, in your opinion?
In my opinion, yes. I think PVC is absolutely where it's at. They have their drawbacks, just like anything, but I think it far outweighs the water main breaks that you see older cities that are happening. That, you know, that's what plastic doesn't break like ductile and cast doesn't back in the days. You know, so that's just going to age out, I think, a lot slower than what those materials are.
Okay.
I have one more thing, if you don't mind it. We did start initially with copper services and we moved away from that. You can speak to that a little bit.
100%. I can give you data for days if you want to know about copper fair enough.
I was just curious, like with plastic and the PFAS, is there anything that like leaches into water from plastic pipes? Like, because we hear about all that with the lead pipes and how you have to put like a lining of some sort of chemical, which to me just sounds crazy because you're just putting another chemical into your pipe to leach more chemicals.
We do add a chemical like that. It's mandated by the state for corrosion protection, just like for that situation. I
Okay.
can't speak exactly for PFAS. PFAS is an ongoing developing
Yeah.
thing that is, what's accurate today is different tomorrow, so I can dig into it more if you want to know something specific.
I just was curious, yeah.
Okay. All right, next slide, please. Also, we work with the planning department to do exactly what we alluded to before, is we're planning for the future infrastructure. You know, one thing I'll make credit or add credit to the previous team for was temporary lift stations. You know, planning for something that will eventually hopefully go away, so you don't have to have that forever. You know, planning your system for that type of stuff. But we also recognize when direction change is needed. You know, if you can't see what isn't working and you can't make changes, then you're just hurting yourself long term. So, also we're always on call. The utility department. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas Eve or your wedding night. I mean, some always getting called, you know, and it's never convenient, it's nights, it's weekends, it's holidays, and the ops team, I'm sure, will vouch for that 110%. So we're there to provide emergency assistance wherever we can, that's water shutoffs, providing specialized equipment, you know, sometimes just providing expertise in different situations, you know.
How many houses do we provide service to with our new water treatment facility and water tower?
We're right around that 500 mark,
Okay.
so that's where we're at right now. Next slide, please. What makes Corcoran Utilities unique? It's a little bit of an interesting situation. So we have two separate water systems. We are on two completely different sampling schedules. And we are the first of that. So we are the Department of Health's guinea pig, which means we have twice the sampling, twice everything basically. We take what a normal city has our size, we double it. Okay? It gets very confusing. Sometimes we're actually correcting them because it's so new. You know, I got a, for example, I had a sample request sent, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This shouldn't be. They had them flipped, so they had the old system as the new system, and our new system as the old system. I'm like, well, this isn't right. So I call them up, and they're like, oh. So they switch them around, but it's just stuff like that, staying on top of it. And so it's something that could be troublesome for other communities in the future, but that's something that we're really dealing with right now and kind of going through the growing pains with that. Another point would be a lot of construction that we're obtaining very shortly. We are seeing blocks of developments being obtained and owned by the city very rapidly. So we get maintenance programs, which took maybe 5 years to build all these developments all at once, and now we're responsible for them all at once. So we're dealing with that, and we're dealing with this extensive growth that we've been seeing in the last few years that is just adding more to it. So not only are we maintaining the existing stuff, we also got to be there for the new stuff and add input and advice for that too. So we're doing that with developing procedures, policies, processes, safety. Safety is a big one, safety committee, and that's growing by the minute. You know, we're realizing what we need to have now with different chemicals and different, you know, trainings and whatnot. So that's an evolving program all the time. Next slide, please.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Did we as a city do a good job on the water treatment?
Yes.
We're gonna be able to grow into that. You and I've had this conversation. I just don't wanna.
100%.
Good.
I think for nothing big was missed. There's little stuff, and you're always gonna have little stuff. So if you got little worries, then that's a good move there. I mean, if you don't worry about anything major, you know, we're not talking you got to knock walls down and do, you know, you miss a light here or a outlet here. Those are easy fixes.
Right.
That's manageable. So for not having utility staff, absolutely. So credit to the existing team and council and whatnot.
Good deal. Thanks.
Yeah. Few overall hazards that utilities department will deal with. A lot like ops, we deal with traffic safety. I think they mentioned it before, but the public works safety and like vehicles do not get the same attention that the police do. You know, I mean, they're buzzing the tower all the time. We're always in the, I mean, if you step a foot off the cone, you better have your head on the swivel because they're right there. So that's something that isn't always recognized, that is always a constant problem. Electrical, we deal with 480 volts. It's something that not a lot, I mean, even electricians get surprised that we deal with, whether it's lift stations, wells, motors, pumps. I mean, it's high energy stuff there. And
Volts
then-
don't kill you, the amps do.
I know, but.
Still hurts.
Yeah.
Tickles a little
You
bit.
tell me how that works.
Hey,
And then emergency response, but we're also out there with the conditions. So we're out there with the hazards and elements of the worst. So something as simple as providing traffic control when you're out there in a snowstorm or when, you know, branches are down, lightning, and we just saw a little bit ago, that's when we're out there and we're called upon. So it's something simple like slip, trips, and falls, and it's gonna be on here a couple times, but you're in the worst conditions possible, whether it's ice, whether it's a wet running ladder, whether in, you know, different things like it's always there, so. Next.
Before you switch, Joe, would you say something about the floor tainer? That just recently came up when you talk about hazards. That's,
Yeah,
is that on the next slide?
It's not on the next one, but it's coming up. With,
Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
And then also overall hazards, we enter houses. We enter houses in very stressful situations. Could be a basement flooding, could be a sewer backup, could be something unforeseen, but usually it's not in the best circumstances. And sometimes we have to deliver them bad news. You know, hey, you gotta have your sewer cleaned out, or you gotta have your service replaced, or something like that, which means money. And they're already at wit's end with their stress level being high, and sometimes that could add to the situation. And that same thing with that is that's in odd hours too. Those are nights, weekends, holidays, because we all know that when is it gonna happen? The worst possible time. So, you know, stuff like that. But also the power tools, the simple stuff. I mean, most of the problems and accidents happen with stuff you use the most. Well, power tools is something like that. You know, so you have PPE, but accidents still do happen. And then lifting. Sometimes we kind of get a little bit of grief about traveling in pairs sometimes from public works or utilities. Well, they don't realize that sometimes you got to go out to a job that you don't know you're going to encounter that day. And a manhole cover weighs 120 to 130 pounds, and something as routine as that can be, you know, you do it a handful of times can be strenuous. Storm drain grate, same thing, catch basin, 146 pounds. You know, one person to do that is a lot. So, next slide, please. Something that we found here on the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This was a stat about Minnesota deaths by occupation, and I thought there was some interesting stuff in there about certain things that relate to public works and just how dangerous it can be. You know, not only deaths, but even like injuries that could be, you know, amputations, losing a finger. We just had safety training this week, and they referenced manhole lid, put in covers, guy lost 3 fingers. You know, just he slipped, another guy had lifted it up and he was grabbing it, first finger gone, just like that. You know, so it's a very common thing. In fact, the instructor was saying he had 62 people that he now had in public works with lost members of their body because of accidents that happened at work. That's not digits, that's people. So, all right, next slide, please. Here's a couple stats about our current water system. Pretty self-explanatory, 27 miles of main. Next slide, please. Here's some of our daily tasks that we deal with in the treatment side of it. I broke water down to treatment and distribution. Water samples. Daily, monthly ones that the Department of Health takes. Lead and copper. Lead and copper, if you're not familiar with that. We'll have more lead and copper samples this year than we've had in the last 15 years. Just this year alone. And it's not going to change a lot for the next 3 years, being a new system like that. Pump maintenance and repair, safety compliance, monthly checks, fire extinguishers, ladders inspections, eye wash, all that stuff that's going on with that. Facility maintenance, filters, simple housekeeping, cleaning, keeping floors clean, all that stuff. Next slide, please. The treatment hazards. As Jay alluded to, we have the chlorine and probably the most profound hazard that we'll have is chlorine. We do have a very good safety program with that. It's a very, they call it the iron lung. Those of you, I mean, you get on the tour or whatnot, but it is a device that is designed for failure. And it still makes everything usable. Nothing's wasted. It's as good as it gets for safety compliance when it comes to that. So I did want to point out one thing that is interesting and a lot of people don't know. We actually handle cyanide every day. We have a reagent for one of our samples that we have to handle that every day. Gets a little, you know, a lot of people don't know that, but it's acids. I mean, it's oxidizers. It's something that's we can't get away from. It's just something that we have to deal with. But towers, 170 feet tall, you know. You gotta climb in the middle of the winter, it's not fun, but sometimes it has to happen, you know. And that's just a damp environment, that you're climbing the ladder, there's safety precautions, we have all that stuff done pretty good, but it's something that we still have to do.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you just explain, I know on the tour we saw how the chlorine gas gets mixed in with the water, and like the purpose of that versus like what a standard treatment facility would be where they actually put it in as a liquid? Like, because it's a gas, right, when it
Yep.
is,
So basically there's a carrier line, I'll make it real quick because we're gonna make sure we have the time.
okay,
There's a carrier line that comes in, and that gas is injected into that, and it's taken in by vacuum. It has to have a pressure differential. It actually like will literally suck the gas into it. And if there's not a vacuum, it shuts off because something's not right. And it infuses into the water there, and then just carried into that water, distributed into the various injection points.
okay, and as opposed to like the other type of where it just puts the liquid or the whatever the chemical in
liquid form.
directly into the, I mean, similar process probably because you still have to,
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit similar. I haven't dealt with it personally, but it's similar.
okay,
It just,
I believe she meant to reference the other treatment option, so there's the chlorine gas and is it the permanganate?
no, there's chlorine gas and there's liquid chlorine.
Okay, that's,
Yeah,
Yeah,
so liquid
yeah.
chlorine is similar, I believe, but it's, I don't a lot of experience with that.
okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right, next slide, please. Water distribution tasks. Hydrant repair, we have to make sure that they're operational for when the fire department needs it. One of those preventative things that it's gotta be there and usable when it's called upon. One point on that is I've actually performed fire department training on how to operate fire hydrants. A lot of times it gets kind of flipped around where fire departments, they're the experts on it, and we're just kind of there to fix them. It's the complete opposite. Not saying that they don't know what they're doing with them, but a lot of times we're training them how to do it. Hydrant flushing, valve exercising, same thing. They gotta work when you got a water break. If they don't work and you gotta start shutting multiple, dozens of houses, that's the last thing you wanna do. Locates, meter reading, escrow and code compliance. We do some stuff with some code compliance and escrow finalizing our projects and whatnot. Next slide, please. And then traffic here, or hazards here. We got traffic. As I alluded to before, this also is something that I want to bring up, to the fact that it's a unique situation. A lot of times they're temporary, so it might be the one and only time you drive through that site is that time, because it's only going to be up for 4 hours, or something like that. So it's a learning curve every time you have to do it. It might be similar, but it's not the exact thing that you might drive down 494 for 2, 3, 4 months and experience it. It's something that is going to be new that time, that day, It could be flaggers, other road hazards. This is not Corcoran in the picture, don't worry. But stuff like that happens. Sinkholes happen, things you can't predict happen. And then just normal maintenance injuries. It could be a pipe break, it could be heavy lifting, could be, you're in a trench, heavy equipment. There's all sorts of hazards that you can't, you have to prepare for. Next slide, please. Our current water challenge. Right now, we are extremely limited for space. We're basically operating everything out of the water plant. We're in need of office, storage, workspace, and we're overusing that water treatment plant right now as a dual building, which isn't exactly a good practice to, not for a long-term goal. We gotta catch up on maintenance, and as they come in, we gotta make sure we're on it. We're adapting to the specs and processes to grow with it as the city grows, and then regulations are only getting more strict. They change by the year sometimes, so it's getting more and more strict, which changes processes, which changes things every time you want to come around to it. I'm going to come back to that next one. So, next slide, please. Future challenges. We want to keep adapting to ongoing changes. Southeast water system is a prime example of that. We've got to plan, make adjustments on the fly as needed with that. Substantial maintenance projects. We got valve repairs, water main breaks, service leaks, product life cycles, you know, meters could get to the end of their life cycle, they have 20, 25, 30 year, I mean, that's something that will be knocking on the door before you know it. And then making sure we do have the recruiting and retaining employees, you know, training does take time. So we gotta make sure we get good people with the app and keep them. So, next slide, please. I'll make this one quick, pretty straightforward with the sewer. We can probably go to the next slide. Maintenance and, it's maintenance extensive, like it is, you have to have so many plans set in place, televising, jet and vac, inspections, you gotta check out, inflow and infiltration. We have lift station inspections and troubleshooting, generator operations and troubleshooting. It's a constant cycle there. And the next slide, please. Sewer hazards. Just sewage alone is a big hazard. We got bloodborne pathogens, you got hepatitis. When we talk about exposures, we're not talking about a single person, we're talking about thousands of people that have contributed to the sewage and you don't know what you're getting into. So it's never fun to have any kind of incidents like that when you're handling sewage. Confined space, we have toxic gases, it's very hazardous, and actually it's very hazardous, but there's very limited recovery crews. We're talking Edina, Minneapolis, Bloomington, St. Cloud. Those are the closest ones. So if you collapse, good luck. I hate to say it, but that's what it is. So you have preventative stuff, your retrieval lines, all that type of stuff. And then on top of that, we got to add that into traffic because we have all of our manholes, most of them, in the road. So we have to be aware of traffic situations where if a car hits the tripod now, if you're talking, you're connected to it, and that's not good. So lift stations, we have up to 36 feet and over 40 feet. So we're talking 170 feet in the air to 40 plus feet in the ground. That's where we can be. Next slide, please. Once again, catching up on maintenance. Certain levels of maintenance are required for insurance properties or policies for liability sakes. Last time I had this bid it out, this is after those rates. But right now, if we do our current system, it'd be about $300,000 to jet and back the system, or 75,000 feet. So that has to happen on a routine basis. That we have to have that in the budget for. As long as we're not doing that in-house, we're going to have to outsource it. So we're going to have to have the money for that somewhere too.
Can you describe what those processes are and what they're for?
So you have jet and vac, which is basically clean the actual mains. Okay. So you get by with jetting as long as there's not debris. So you can jet, take out debris, and you have to vac it and get it out of there. And then televising is actually really running the camera down TV. For some reason, they don't acknowledge TV or televising that as sufficient enough that it needs as itself. So you have to do both.
What is routine? Is that like every 3 years, every 5 years?
They say match like cities is really what they say. It's very vague. So it's about a 5-year mark is usually a pretty good maintenance plan. And if you still have problems, then you have to adapt to that too. So 5 years is usually a pretty good ballpark figure to go off of.
And how do you know if you have a problem?
You would have a backup where you have something to say like after 5 years if it's televised or whatever, then they televise it again. Do you have roots in a water main or sewer main? You'd have something like that. Okay, we have roots again, or you have
Broken pipe?
broken pipe, or a joint that's not home all the way, or I&I, or something like that. So next slide, please. Future challenges. Equipment. Obviously, if we want to house this and handle this inside, we have to have the equipment to do it. We have to have the staff to handle it as well. Annual maintenance is increasing, so this is only going to get worse as time goes on. Manholing is probably a future issue that we're going to have to do with I&I, making sure we don't have inflow and infiltration to keep our sewer charges down to a minimum. And then on top of that, something that might not be considered is contract managing until the work is done. So like for the city. So if we have to hire it out, it's following through on that. It's getting the bids. It's making sure they're getting the work done. It's inspecting it. It's all that stuff that is still time from the staff. It's back in with Lauren about the asset management system. It's something that would really be beneficial for record keeping. That's something that these agencies requires good record keeping. If you don't have proof of it, that it didn't happen. And that's basically going to provide us a timeline for data for that asset. It's organized, it's in one location, it's used cross division. And it's used to analyze data, project gaps. It could be highlighting what needs to be done, or it could be highlighting what is working. Hey, these street signs are working well because they're in great shape and they're 10 years old. Why is it different from this one that's, 8 years old? Could be the basing, could be anything like that. You can just use it as an analyzing tool.
Is that what the blue lines are?
Those are actually water mains and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it's great for tracking costs. You can literally track labor, equipment, parts, whatever you want to track, it will track it for you. You want to have data, this is the system that will provide it for you. It can give you anything you want to know. So,
Can I just inject there, you're doing a great job. So that's a good start to tying it together is when do you invest in certain things and when don't you, and it's a huge challenge in a growing city. One thing I will say is we are putting our efforts into collecting the data now because it's really expensive to go back and collect the data, so our efforts right now are collection. And then we have to make a strategic decision when we deploy the next step, because it's not cheap. So just time that whole timing strategic decision is really the front and center in a lot of the conversation.
nope, you're good. So this is just to wrap up, basically saying, we do our best. I know Pat alluded to it. We do treat all of our projects like our own, we do the best product and service we can provide, and that's safely, efficiently, as much as we can, budget friendly. Goes to our drinking water. It's keeping the growth and budget in mind with that. It's understanding the future problems and planning for them now as much as possible. Planning for system failures, planning for product life cycles, planning for anything you can plan for. And with that, it's getting the support staff and development and recruitment and retaining good staff. And so we do all that, and we still provide our emergency services as much as possible, and whenever called upon. So, next slide. I think this just shows our Venn diagram of basically us working together in all sorts of facets, overlapping, and then having the GIS kind of take care of how that could help in the core of our three separate fields, so to speak. Next slide.
Yeah, no, this is our last slide, so we've got 5 minutes left, so if there's anything you guys want to ask or follow up, again, I just really wanted to emphasize again, appreciate the time you guys coming in and all early to learn more about our program and processes and team. I'm very proud of them, but we know that we can improve. We don't do everything perfectly, so if you have feedback, make sure you're relaying that to us, and we want to do our best. And then our pledge is to talk about challenges that we have with you and try to work as a team. So I really want to emphasize the appreciation to allowing us to share this information.
Appreciate it.
Great work.
If you want to see something in the field, if you want to see something happening, by all means, shoot me an email, we can let you know when this is happening or that, and we just,
Ride
see it
alongs
firsthand.
or any other information.
What if I want to climb the tower?
No.
Eat your Wheaties, that's all I'm saying.
I can go 2 steps on the tower, otherwise I'm not going any higher than that, so. No, you guys, all of y'all, great job. This is your jobs. We appreciate it very much. I think all of us up here, if I'm wrong, would really like it if every time you need something, we don't need to change budgets because of the growth that happens, we're gonna pay for it. And we'll see if we can make all of those things align and make it so we don't have to impact so many people all at once. Do it with the growth that's happened, so.
I did want to just touch on and remind the public out there, so when we talk utilities, some of those utility expenses, those are tied to the users of the
Yep.
utilities. And the expenses there and the projections
Yep.
for the sewer system, those, we're in the middle of a rate study, but we're trying to use our
We've had a lot of that too, Kevin. We're at the conversations about City Hall and stuff, people are saying you raise their taxes. That was to pay for the water tower. The water treatment wasn't a dime related to that. So, I know our staff, everybody does a good job publishing that, putting it out on the newsletter and other things. But boy, people don't read it, so.
Yeah, it's just a good reminder.
It's crazy.
But yeah, again, like, hopefully we are good stewards and they're our customers.
And you
right?
are.
So we have our constituents and we have our customers, so we really have kind of a dual responsibility in
Yeah.
addition to the responsibility of our departments and neighbors.
Similarly, just to build on what Kevin's saying there, as we're doing development, development costs related to engineering are typically covered by escrow. And so just emphasizing that as growth is happening, those sorts of expenses are being covered by the causes of those growth. But that doesn't diminish the maintenance cost that comes with this. So I think each division talked about the upcoming expenses as we have significant assets coming into our inventory that we're going to be responsible for into perpetuity.
And the further picture, it just, you sparked my brain, but like some of the options we have, I know it's been, at least since I've been at the city, almost 10 years, appropriate strategic development and in-house of some services, right? So we've been doing it with community development, we've been doing it with engineering, but just frankly, with some of the conversations that I had with city campus, we were kind of hamstrung with even bringing internal services on
Right.
until we find solutions for seats and stuff. So they go hand in hand, so sometimes we're operating on limited resources. We might want to pull the trigger to make this decision, but we can't until we solve this problem. So we wear a lot of hats. We try to follow those initiatives. And so if you ever have a question about policy or how we're making decisions, I know the other leadership would too, anyone would start to sit down, what is our philosophy as we make decisions? Because some of them are rooted in 10 years ago and most of you weren't on the council, so we're still carrying forward those decisions. So if there's ever a question about that, that's a lot of times easier to answer to me on a philosophical basis. Like what is the message of so they decide this purchase or that? What is Joe deciding on when he works with a vendor? It's really driven by a long runway of policy and feedback from council that we carry forward. So I think we're out of time.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
That's great.
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Anything else?
That's it for this session, Mr. Mayor.
And we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.